The richest man in New York ignored a housemaid until one night he followed her and what he saw broke him. Some people we overlook are actually life's hidden blessings. Have you ever stopped and wondered, behind the quietest people in your everyday life, could there be a story powerful enough to change your heart? We're often so busy with work, with our own pain, with our ambitions, that we unintentionally overlook ordinary people silently carrying the weight of an entire world on their shoulders. Today's story is about a wealthy man and a woman he almost never truly saw. In the restless, never-sleeping city of New York City, Alexander Reed, a 44-year-old millionaire, owned a chain of luxury hotels stretching from Manhattan to Europe. He built everything from nothing: luxury cars, a private jet, a massive riverside mansion along the Hudson. He seemed to have everything anyone could ever dream of. But ever since his wife, Sophia, passed away from cancer 2 years ago, that grand mansion had become unbearably cold. The wide hallways echoed only with the sound of his lonely footsteps. At night, Alexander often sat alone in his study, holding a glass of expensive wine, yet feeling completely empty inside. He grew distant, quiet, consumed by work. To the household staff, he was little more than a shadow, someone they rarely dared to look in the eye. Among them was Clara, a quiet housemaid who'd been working there for over 6 months. She was always on time, gentle, reserved, almost invisible in that vast house. Alexander had barely ever noticed her, until one chilly morning in November. As Clara was cleaning the second-floor hallway, Alexander happened to walk by. He stopped. Her uniform looked looser than usual. Her steps were slower, and from time to time, her hand rested gently on her stomach. She was pregnant. Alexander stood still. He couldn't recall her ever mentioning a husband, a child, or any family. She was always private, never opening up. But what caught his attention most was her eyes. Not the glow of a joyful, expecting mother, but deep sadness, exhaustion, and quiet worry. All that day, Alexander couldn't focus on any of his meetings. Even while speaking with business partners, Clara's tired eyes kept returning to his mind. Finally, he made a decision he hadn't made in years. He canceled all his afternoon appointments and quietly followed her after work. Clara didn't call a taxi. Instead, she walked to a bus stop and squeezed onto an old, crowded bus. Alexander followed from a distance, curiosity growing. The bus left the wealthy district and moved deep into the older, worn-out neighborhoods of Brooklyn. After nearly an hour, Clara got off. The streets were cracked. Buildings were old and fading. Children ran barefoot along the sidewalks. Clara walked slowly, occasionally holding her stomach in pain. Alexander parked discreetly and followed on foot. She stopped in front of a deteriorating apartment building. Before going inside, she stepped into a small grocery store. She carefully selected a few items: milk, bread, and some medicine. Alexander watched as she counted every coin in her hand, hesitated, and reluctantly put some items back. Suddenly, a little boy, about 6 years old, ran out from an alley. "Mom!" Clara's face softened instantly. She knelt and hugged him tightly. The boy was thin, but his eyes were bright. They walked inside together. Standing by the window, Alexander felt his chest tighten. Inside the tiny apartment, 2 elderly people sat on a worn-out couch. The old woman coughed weakly. The old man struggled just to stand. Clara rushed to them immediately, giving medicine, helping them drink water, gently rubbing the old woman's back. The boy sat quietly beside them.
Alexander froze. Clara wasn't just a pregnant housemaid. She was carrying everything alone, raising her young son, caring for her sick parents, and preparing to bring another life into the world. Then came the moment that shook him deeply. Clara took out her salary envelope. She carefully counted every bill. She set aside a small portion for herself and her unborn child and gave almost everything else to the old man. "I've saved this for rent and your medicine," she said softly, her voice trembling. The old man shook his head, tears rolling down his face. "Keep it, my child. You need it more." Clara gave a gentle, sad smile. "You need it more than I do." At that moment, the little boy climbed onto her lap and asked innocently, "Mom, when is Daddy coming home?" Clara paused. She stroked his hair and whispered softly, "Your daddy is in heaven, watching over us." Outside the window, Alexander's tears fell silently. He too was a widower, and in that moment he saw himself in Clara, two strangers quietly carrying their grief. Clara took out an old photograph. Alexander stepped closer, and his heart nearly stopped. In the photo was Clara and her husband, and standing beside them was Sophia, his late wife. The truth hit him. Years ago, Sophia had volunteered at a charity center. Clara's husband had worked there as a driver. Sophia had quietly helped their family during difficult times without ever telling Alexander. Clara looked at the photo, her voice trembling. "Sophia, your kindness saved us when we had nothing. I just wish you were still here." Alexander couldn't hold back anymore. Tears streamed down his face. It wasn't coincidence. His wife had brought Clara into his life. The next morning, Clara arrived at work as usual, but everything had changed. Alexander called her into his office. She was nervous, thinking she had done something wrong, but Alexander smiled, a genuine, warm smile he hadn't shown since Sophia passed. "From today on," he said gently, "you are no longer a housemaid. You and your family will move into the guest house. Your parents will receive full medical care from the best doctors. Your son will attend a top school, and you focus on taking care of yourself and your baby." Clara stood frozen. Tears streamed down her face. "Sir, I can't accept this." Alexander gently interrupted. "My wife once helped you. Now let me continue the kindness she started." Clara broke down in tears, and for the first time in 2 long years, Alexander felt warmth return to his heart. Sometimes, the people we overlook the most are the very blessings life sends us to heal us. True wealth isn't about money or status. It's about seeing someone else's pain and having the courage to reach out. And sometimes, all it takes is one quiet moment of truly seeing someone to rediscover the part of your soul you thought was lost. If this story touched your heart and reminded you that kindness still exists in this world, please like, share, and subscribe to Deep Life Story. We bring you meaningful, emotional, and life-changing stories every day. Who knows, the next story might be your own. Remember, kindness never disappears. It simply waits for someone brave enough to continue it.